don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, where you're from, why you're doing this?
So, originally I'm from New Jersey. I moved out to Florida about 14 years ago after I won custody of all three of my sons and decided New Jersey is just not a place to raise kids anymore, and didn't want to be around their mother anymore. So we came out to Florida. My trade is a mechanic. I turn wrenches. I decided to run for Congress specifically because I'm watching the federal government at a present treating us like frogs in a thing of water. It's the hotter it gets, the worse it gets for us. And my kids aren't going to have the same freedoms that I grew up with. It continues to become less and less and less, and we're starting to see the same old excuse that it's always been, that this has to be done for your safety. And we've been told, by our founding fathers, that if you're willing to give up your safety and your freedom, you deserve none of it. And we're starting to get to that point where they're passing bills with warrantless searches on American citizens. But Speaker Johnson came out and said, if you had seen the things that I've seen, that you would have agreed with it. And it's just that when it goes against the Constitution, which is the line in the sand between American citizens and tyranny, you can't accept that. So that is the reason why I decided to start running. Not to mention the fiscal irresponsibility, the fact that our money is worth less. Everybody sits there and says that the products that we haven't changed. It's the value of our dollar that's changed. Mm-hmm. That's why I agreed with Robert Kennedy in backing our currency with Bitcoin. I thought that was a very, very smart move, and the ideas behind blockchain and putting our numbers on blockchain. So there's just we could go on all day as to why I'm running. And it's really just to get us back to where the Constitution had gotten us to, and that's limited government. The less that they're involved in your life, the better your life is going to be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, hey, you're here. So tell us about your district. Your District 14 candidate. So what does that encompass? Who are your opponents? The incumbent?
So the incumbent is Kathy Castor. She's great. I couldn't tell you who the opponent is going to be on the Republican side. They don't have their primary until the 20th of this month. They have a large field. They've got Rocky Rochford, John Peters, Neelam Perry, and Ehsan Jorder. And then you have a no-party affiliate, Christopher Bradley. He ran as a Democrat against Kathy Castor back in 2020, I believe it was, 2022, in the primary, and she wiped the floor with them. She got 91% of the vote. He got 9%. So he's now running as a no-party affiliate to try to unseat her again. The 14th district encompasses Tampa, St. Pete, Ruskin, Gibsonton, Apollo Beach, parts of Manatee County, I believe out by Palmetto, as you first get in there out of Ruskin. The district is pretty closely evenly split. You've got 387,000 registered Democrats, 327,000 registered Republicans, and then Florida meshes the minor parties and no party affiliates into one bracket. So them combined is 313,000. So you have 1.2 million voters, and it's literally split 33, 33, 33.
Wow.
So mathematically, I would just have to pull 16% of the total votage to win here. Kathy Castor won the last time. I believe the total number of votes that came out to vote were 330,000. She got 149,000, and then the Republican got just over 100,000. And then you had your others that ran in the race. So at about 16%, you could pull this district. And I think what we're seeing with regards to Florida, I know they're saying that the Republicans are outpacing the Democrats, and they might be, but I think you're seeing a large bracket of people are saying that they're no longer interested in dealing with the Republicans and the Democrats as you've had them. You've had Republicans for 166 years, and you've had Democrats for 196 years, and they're still fighting the same battles that they've been fighting for almost 200 years. Nothing's changed. It's still the same pointing of the fingers. It's still the same arguments. And I think people are getting to the point where they're tired of career politicians telling them that their economy is doing just great, and then turning around and blaming the corporations and saying, "Oh, well, it's their fault that our policies failed." And at some particular point, they'll start blaming the citizens, and it's always the citizens that get punished for it because they're going to put more regulations on the corporations, which is going to end up, being taken out of your pocket because the buck always gets passed down to the middle class.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I'm specifically pushing in District 14 is to get the cost of living down, and it's out of control over here. We have our housing costs are gone through the roof, groceries have gone through the roof, and what we have seen over the last 3 days is that the politicians in Washington are saying it's the corporation's fault. It's certainly has nothing to do with inflation. It certainly has nothing to do with the excessive spending that they did to fuel inflation. It certainly has nothing to do with the $3.2 trillion that they dumped into an economy that didn't need it with no product. So those are the huge encompasses of things that I'm pushing to fight back against and get it back to our fiscal responsibility. And I think that the biggest way to do that is 1, 86 the Fed, and 2, leverage our money and secure it through Bitcoin. For the specific reason that it's very decentralized, it's very difficult for the government to try to start manipulating it. So I think the biggest step in decentralizing our government is to start with ending the Fed and backing our currency on something they can't touch.
Yeah, well, you won't get any complaints from us on that. So I didn't realize how big District 14 was. It's the Tampa Bay area.
Yeah. It's very big. There's 1.2 million registered voters in this district. And I've had a couple of people reach out and say, "Hey, can we come and door knock with you?" And there's no point in trying to door knock 1.2 million houses. Laws of averages are very much against our favor on that.
Right.
So, I found it's a lot. I found that the most interesting way to go out and meet people is literally just going out and meeting them, whether it's just going to a bar, striking up a conversation, going to a coffee shop, striking up a conversation, standing in line. I found that that's the most effective way to go out and meet people versus, Florida as a whole is becoming more of an HOA state. There's so many no soliciting signs going on, and nobody's home. Everybody's working 3 jobs.
Yeah.
Nobody's home.
No kidding.
So,
you should see my yard.
Text message marketing.
Yeah. So, you're not door knocking, you go hang out at these local spots. I mean, like, how are you finding people in this new world where either nobody's home or they're not leaving their home because they work from home?
Well, so it used to be door knocking, mail, postcards, emails, but you're finding that most of the emails are no longer working, or they're not putting the emails that they're using. So the biggest and strongest form of marketing right now is through cell phones, is to register for the text message marketing, because everybody's got their phone on them. Everybody's got their, whether they're driving, walking down the street, or watching their kids, their phone's on them. So I had found that text message marketing is the strongest way to set it up. And and if you set it up as a poll, just a simple questionnaire, what is the biggest issue for you here in Tampa Bay? They might say it's democracy. They might say it's this, and then you tailor their response to what the next set of questions is, and then eventually it introduces itself to what candidate they're most closely related to, and then it helps me tailor a message to that person if we're not quite aligned. So we had found that the response would be the next thing would be a link with a video where I'm talking about where they think their biggest issue is.
Interesting.
And I mean, the interesting way that I got introduced to you guys was actually through a text message. It came in from Kyle, where it was just a real simple question. Do you take Bitcoin donations? And I was like, well, I don't. That's very interesting. And then they got the invite to come and hang out with you guys over here. And since then, we actually did implement a Bitcoin donation on the website. Once we got taught by the Santiago's how that works. So
nice.
that was very, very cool.
Yeah. It's not as hard as you think it is, right?
No, it's not. It's very complicated to listen to. But when you were explaining the different methods of the wallets, it was like a smile and nod moment. That's great, But it's very complicated for me to listen to. If we're talking engines and cars, I understand it all day long.
Oh yeah, and I know you push the button, and then and then it goes.
Right. Yep. It goes straight forward, and then you step on the brake, the lights go on in the back.
Yeah. No, yeah. So it says, oh, wow, right. Very interesting. But, so, and that's why I kind of tell a lot of people, and that's the exact analogy I use actually with Bitcoin is I use the cars. I'm like, you don't understand how your car works. But you still throw yourself down the highway at 8 miles an hour.
Right. You still can throw yourself down at 80 miles an hour.
Right.
As long as you know how to drive it.
Right.
So, and setting up, being able to take the donations, and I understand the logic behind Bitcoin. Could I explain it so it makes absolute sense? No way. Mm-hmm. No way. I just know that it's better than what we have right now.
Yeah. So. And that's our job, is explaining it. So as a 501c3 folks in education, that is literally our job. So we're always happy to, talk more on that. And if anyone ever has any questions, I do this full time. So it's, you're not alone.
That's beneficial. Is the average American has been taught to believe that the politician is supposed to know every aspect or every facet of what's going on. But when the reality is we're simply representatives for you, the people. Mm-hmm. So if you guys are coming out saying we want Bitcoin, I just simply have to say, yeah, how do you want to do it? And then go out there and push that and get it done. You guys can explain it to everybody.
Yeah.
I just have to vote yes.
Yeah.
And get it done.
Right.
And so that's the type of representative that I'm looking to be. I'm not a party loyalist. I'm a people loyalist. Mm-hmm. And I know I've aggravated a lot of people on the libertarian side for coming out and saying that. But at the end of the day, the Constitution says that we, the people, are the government, not we, the party. Mm-hmm. Regardless of whether I align more with libertarian values than I do with Democrat values or Republican values, it's still the people. It's what they asked for. It's what they got. And they're not getting that from any of the politicians that we currently have right now. So that's one of the things that I've been pushing to let people know. I live in Tampa. I'm pretty sure I'm the only one running that's living in Tampa. I'm the only one that's blue collar, not coming from multi-million-dollar money. And I've turned down or pissed off just about every PAC that's reached out, or endorsement committee. Moms for Gun Sense reached out and said, "Hey, if you'll back these bills right here, we'll throw you up on our pedestal." And I responded back, "Shall not be infringed" as a command. So yeah, they were not happy. I got a really nice letter that I've used in ads that says that you will not be considered for our endorsement.
But yeah, no kidding.
Right. So and I've pretty much done that with just about everybody. And one of the things that we have been conditioned for so long was to believe, especially through the media, that if your preferred candidate is raising millions and millions of dollars, they're the right one. Mm-hmm. It's like sports marketing. The one that brings in the most fans is the one who's going to get the biggest contract. But I think when it comes to politics, if you're not pulling in the millions of dollars, you're not being bought. Mm-hmm. And you're actually representing the people that you're supposed to be representing. But the media pushes, they've pulled in this much money. This is a record-breaking amount of money that's been pulled in this week or that last week. And if you look at the people representing us now, they don't even know how the three branches of government work. We watched Lauren Boebert get schooled by an 80-year-old woman with purple hair over how the three branches of government work. And she was supposed to be their bright and shining star. Marjorie Taylor Greene would impeach a napkin if it was allowed. So I think that we need to get it back to we the people as far as government is concerned. Mm-hmm. Because once it became we the party, it didn't matter who was representing. They were going to do what the party wanted. And that's why we're in the situation we are today. Not because of corporations, not because of Bitcoin, not because of cryptocurrencies. It's because of the decisions made by the two parties at hand right now. And inflation starts at the White House. It doesn't start, or in Washington, D.C. It doesn't start at the corporation level. Mm-hmm.
So how do you change that party mindset? Because you've got people that they see a D next to the name or an R, that's the guy or gal. They don't care about the individual's policies. They know that the Democratic Party has this agenda. Anyone who's got the D next to the name will be pushing that agenda. Just vote for them. Everyone switched.
Well, it's party politics.
Yeah.
So an example that I've given to a lot of people is this particular time that you're at a bar and you had a guy sitting next to you talking politics, and he made a lot of sense and he brought a lot of plausible solutions, and you're like, crap, this dude should run for office. your first thought was, is this guy a Republican or a Democrat? Your thought was, he's got solutions, and it works. We've been conditioned to believe that 166 years of Republicans and 196 years of Democrats are the only solutions that exist, and they'll condition you to the way that they restructured certain definitions in the dictionary. They restructure certain elements of the Constitution. They'll come out and say, well, our government was designed for only two governments, but they'll forget to tell you that the Whig Party was established and the Federalist Party was established during those eras to combat the two. I believe it was the Whig Party that started to try to stop Andrew Jackson. So I would tell them it should be coming down to policy. What policy is better for you? Because it's certainly not going to be the party. Because if it was the party, we wouldn't be dealing with inflation right now. We wouldn't be dealing with half of the problems that we're dealing with over the last 200 years. And I'm not saying that every Republican is bad and every Democrat is bad, but as a whole, it's going to end up being party politics. George Santos didn't play ball; he got 86th. Yeah. Kevin McCarthy didn't play ball; he got 86, tucked his tail between his legs, and they gave away 8 seats? Something like 8 seats they gave away, and they just about have no majority left. So, your voice is already being stolen. So when they sit there and they say that, voting third party is a wasted vote, your vote was already wasted when they gave away 8 seats in the House, got rid of the people that they voted for. And you have the Democrats saying, well, if Donald Trump wins, we're just going to push this portion of the Constitution and get rid of it. That's your vote being wasted. So, I would say that it's coming at a point where we need to start educating the voters to look at policy. And then, again, like I said before, if the candidate in front of you is, 180 days before the election even begins, is sitting on $3 million in the bank, and they haven't even begun campaigning, they're bought. They're being paid by special interest groups to push their policies and push their laws that benefit them on a corporate level. The regulations that are in place right now are why the monopolies exist within the corporations. It's, that's government. They created the monopolies and they keep them there. It's not because of the corporations. I mean, they help in some facet, but it's certainly not because the corporations exist that they're the problem. It's because they're protected by the regulations that pay back into the pockets and the coffers of the politicians. So follow the money. Follow the money, and there's your answer as to who's going to actually represent you or represent the parties.
So how do we bring accountability back? I mean, you got people for the past, we'll just say 4 years, it's been much longer, who just get in front of Congress and lie. And then they get caught lying. And then they go back in front of Congress and lie again later and get caught again and then do it again. And then they keep their high-paying government salary.
Well, that's our two-tier justice system. What's good for thee is not for me. Our government has given itself immunity. They've given unelected officials immunity. We see that with the SEC and FINRA, especially what they did with the MMTLP, that fiasco there. Shutting those guys down. They were supposed to be on the 12th. They were supposed to shut that down, and everybody's supposed to be able to pull their stocks out, and they ended up doing it at midnight on the 9th. And everybody that got stuck in there got stuck. Now their money's sitting idle, and FINRA and then SEC for the last 618 days haven't had to give a reason for why. And so they've had veterans that have invested in that organization commit suicide, and they've reached out to Castor, they reached out to Speaker Johnson. Somebody get an investigation? Can we get can somebody give us the short count? And nobody responds, and nobody gives them an answer because they've given themselves immunity on unelected official levels, and they've been granted immunity on congressional levels and presidential levels and police levels and so forth and so on. We need a reform that holds everybody accountable. There has to be legislation put in place that defines the level of immunity. It cannot be a blanket immunity. I understand in some portions of those jobs there needs to be an immunity for certain decisions, but you can't have blanket immunity to do whatever you want. So I would say you need to have legislation in there that starts to hold these people accountable. And it can't just be, it seems to be that, if the Democrats want to subpoena you and then punish you for ignoring their subpoena, you're going to be doing prison time. And the Republicans are just very good at writing letters. They don't they don't fulfill any ordeal. But if you had, I guess at that point, if you had a Democrat's mindset to holding people accountable, and you did it on a governmental level, I mean, the Democrats would be able to hold Republicans accountable. So why can't we hold everybody accountable?
Right.
So there needs to be stronger legislation that holds government accountable, and I think it needs to start on through our 10th Amendment and giving that power to the states to start holding federal people accountable. And that's what the 10th Amendment was set in place for the states to be able to fight back against federal oversight and federal overreach. And it just seems like nobody wants to do it.
So could a state attorney general bring charges against a sitting congressperson?
They could, yeah. They could bring charges against it. They did it to Santos, and that's why they kicked him out. They did it to Menendez. So, he ended up getting found guilty on I think 11 of the charges. But,
was that the guy who was taking gold bribes from Egypt?
New Jersey, right?
Yeah, the senator from Jersey. Yeah. Oh, jeez. But I have no gold whatsoever.
Coming from a libertarian, that's surprising.
So
I can ask 100 questions.
Let's start with one.
Start with one. We are a 501c3, so we have to get equal views to all the candidates.
Yeah.
I'm a voting member of your district, and I have been for a long time. I've never voted for her ever. But since this is the first foray, do you know her views on? We're talking about the sitting congresswoman.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know her views on Bitcoin at this point?
I don't know that she's ever given a view on Bitcoin, to be honest.
Okay.
She's very big on federal oversight, so I would say that she probably doesn't support it.
Yeah, that would be my guess. I just haven't heard directly.
Right. Now, I do know that there has been, over the last 2 weeks, there has now been a Democrat committee coming out in support of cryptocurrency and forms of Bitcoin. So it seems that this is the year where the Democrats start to play copycat. Whether it's
no tax on tips.
Right. Well, and here's the thing: a lot of people were mad at Kamala Harris. They were saying he's copying Donald Trump, but Ron Paul came out with that in 2011 with HR 1139, which is the no tax on tap. So, but I personally don't know where she stands on Bitcoin. But I would say that
she even knows what it is.
Well, she's very big on stocks. She's violated the stocks transparency laws. So, I'm sure she's well aware of what Bitcoin is.
Well, what's the point of going to Congress if you can't do insider trading?
Now I'm starting to regret making that pledge that I won't engage in stock trading.
Yeah, I mean, you got to make money somehow. I mean, that's why I'm okay. Those $120,000 a year salaries just aren't cutting it anymore.
Well, especially with inflation.
Yeah.
But that's why I'm okay with Bitcoin. That's not stock trading. That's so.
Yeah, it's a commodity, I guess.
Right. It's play on words. It's play on words.
Yeah. Yeah. So I mean, we've actually gone to Castor's office, dropped off some books, and tried to be like, hey, we're your local, we're friendly neighborhood Bitcoin people. But it has been like amusing to see the Democrats complete 180 on the whole Bitcoin thing in the past month. I mean, Biden is alive. Yeah, and all of a sudden, Kamala's just been, hot swapped in like Indiana Jones, trying to keep the weight down, and no tax on tips. And now there's crypto for Harris, and it's just like, what's going on here? You guys have been openly hostile to this industry Well,
they've also been pushing, how Bidenomics has been working. But then now they're all saying from day one, they're going to fix the economy. So was it working or was it not working?
Yeah.
So, there's this, the whole 180 into the argument. It seems that they're starting to separate themselves from Bidenomics.
That was all him.
Yeah, well, it's all his fault. It's just, the administration was taken for the ride. So.
Yeah. I mean, you already talked about cost of living, and how long have you been in Tampa now?
13 years.
All right. So you've seen it then.
Yeah.
Well, it used to be great to live. Everything was affordable.
Well, you used to be able to get a 3-bedroom house for $800 a month. I mean, I was out by Pasco County, but I mean, it was still, now you're out here and you're not as bad as New Jersey, but you're getting very close.
Oh yeah.
You're getting very close. And I think the biggest issue that we had is during COVID, because, it was a little bit easier to live out here. We did have our shutdown, and so forth and so on, but everybody from New York and up north came up here, did the whole buying of the houses without even seeing them for, in some times it was almost 100% more than the house was worth. And now they're trying to sell them and they can't. And now they're being foreclosed on. So now you're going to have this influx of housing that can't be rented for anything because it's way too expensive, and can't be sold because there's no market on it. And now you can't even buy a house out here because you can't have insurance.
Yeah.
So, you have a multitude of issues that are about to hit Florida. And I think that the insurance company they were just touting coming out here, I think just pulled out.
Really? Yeah, the insurance thing has been a whole issue. They keep so I went up to Tallahassee back in January. They had a blockchain day. And we were talking to a couple of senators, and the insurance had come up. And the one senator was like pretty pissed. He was like, these guys have come in here and demanded this, 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 and this to get prices down. And we've been like, okay, here you go. And prices keep going up, and now you can't sue them. So obviously we have hurricanes, we have sinkholes, we have mold. I mean,
you've had them for.
It's not an easy place to insure.
Since the existence of Florida, you've had them.
So what broke? Was it just the influx of Yankees?
Well, I think that you had an influx of individuals that came in here buying the houses. I think that you have an increase in fraud within the insurance industry and the roofing industry as a whole. You have building code issues where they're not up to par with the storms that we get. So the insurance companies are paying out a lot more, and the insurance companies are also dealing with inflation. Right. So it's not just us at the grocery stores. The businesses are dealing with these issues. So Florida has not done a good job of addressing the fraud issues. It's easier for them to go after a speeding ticket than it is to handle the actual issues that are costing us money. So I would work with state and local officials out here to address the fraud issues with roofing. Strengthen your building codes. Because if the houses are stronger, the insurance companies are not worried about having to pay out XYZ amount of money. And I'm not a big fan of subsidies, but if these people are being affected by the issue of possibly losing their homes over this insurance crisis, then use their tax dollars, get these homeowners a subsidy to offset the costs, and start bringing the insurance companies back. And I think it starts with letting them know we're handling the fraud issues out here, and we have strengthened our building codes, because, like I said, if they're not worried about the excess amount having to come out of their pockets the most recent storm wasn't that bad, and there were still $90 million worth of claims. So I think when our building or when our homes are up to code, building wise, you're not going to have as many claims on those insurances, and the insurance companies are going to be more comfortable to come over here.
Okay. Yeah. No. I mean, I got an email from like the SBA was doing emergency loans for people damaged by Hurricane Debbie, like in Hillsborough County, and I'm like, yeah, a tree that fell. I mean, like I don't like. It seems like they're trying to give out money, but then I don't know. This is the hamster wheel of fiat money. You got to keep it going. That way, people keep going for it, and then now they got to pay it back. So now there's servicing costs, and now you can lend against that and borrow against that. But that's a much larger problem than one congressional district.
Well, I mean, Hillsborough County has there's a surplus of money in Hillsborough County. It was Jim Davison, I believe, is the guy running for the community manager position. He had brought it up. There's almost $400 million in surplus out here. The roads aren't being worked on. So what's the money going to sit in the bank for?
Yeah, well, melting.
Right. So at that point, I would say $400 million, you could create a subsidy program instead of giving out a loan.
Right.
The last time the government gave out loans, the interests were supposed to help drive down costs with the college. with the college loans. The interest on that was supposed to drive down the cost to keep Obamacare affordable. So the minute that you know you're no longer collecting the interest payments on that, what's going to happen to the Obamacare program?
Right. Yeah. And has healthcare and or education gotten cheaper in the past 8 years, 10 years?
Yeah, it keeps getting bigger.
Right.
It keeps getting more expensive.
So you win your seat. What's the one thing you are pushing to get passed, and the one thing you are going after like a dog to get repealed?
So I want to get rid of regulations.
Mm-hmm.
They stifle innovation. They kill our economy, and like we said before, it keeps the huge corporations that they're saying are controlling the monopoly in power.
And we just had the Chevron deference get scrapped,
right? Which is good because that takes it out of the hands of unelected officials. So the one thing I want to get rid of as many regulations as possible, and I think if there has to be regulations, that has to be implemented by the states that you're in. Let the states figure out what regulations they want in place for the businesses that are operating in their states. The biggest thing that I'm looking to tackle is driving down the cost of living, and that starts with stopping excessive spending. And I think when you start to implement major tax cuts and start getting rid of a lot of the taxes that we're being forced to pay, if you look at the income tax, you're being taxed on your wealth before you even get it. With property tax, you're forced to pay a tax for something they didn't even help you get. So I would be pushing to get rid of a lot of the tax that we're paying right now and have it replaced with a fair tax program, where it's simply 23% on new goods and purchases, which at that point it's almost a voluntary transaction tax. You're going to be paying that tax when you go to make that purchase. And since it's on new goods and supplies, if you were to go buy used, you're obviously not having to deal with that tax program.
Would you advocate abolishing income tax?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Like I said, they tax your wealth before you get it. And like I said, if you replace that with the fair tax program, where it's simply on just new goods and purchases, you already know that everybody that's in the United States is going to be paying their share of the tax, whether they're an immigrant or not. So I would absolutely push and fight for income tax to be abolished. It was stopped, I think, 5 times before it was finally approved as being deemed unconstitutional.
And it was unconstitutional. Yeah.
And then suddenly it wasn't.
Yeah.
Go figure.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure the same senators that helped pass the Federal Reserve Act were, friendly to that one.
Yes, that fancy little meeting on the island.
Yeah. We actually drove by Jekyll Island the other day. I was like, oh, that's a lot closer than I thought it was. So before we open it up to kind of more, to everyone else's questions, is there anything that you feel like we've missed that you want to make sure that people, know about what you're trying to do?
No, I think we can just go straight to the questions.
Great. Jack?
Well, I can keep going.
Start us off.
How big of I have images of Malay down in Argentina taking a chainsaw and cutting. How big is your chainsaw?
Oh, I mean, I'm looking at running with 2. So I'd like to see about 95% of our federal government, 86. And like I said, when you push the fair tax program, you almost don't even need the IRS anymore because your states are collecting the tax at this point and kicking it off to the Fed. So there's a crap load of money not being spent on 80,000 armed IRS agents.
And we talked about immunity on elected officials. I think that's important. I mean, not, we can argue about the degree, right?
Right.
Well, my big thing is the immunity that the unelected bureaucrats have.
Right. The unelected officials are a problem.
Because they're the ones who pull all the strings that know where all the little hidden, gems are, and they can do whatever they want, and no one ever sees to get in trouble ever.
Right. Well, if you look at I support the term limits. On the Senate, on the House, and on the staffers, because they sit there for 25, 30 years. Yeah. They know, like you said, all the ins and outs. They're the ones that are reading and writing the bills that are coming out. The majority of the representatives, like we were saying before, they're just a mouthpiece. They aren't actually reading it. And like Nancy Pelosi had said, what was it back in 2008? We have to pass it to know what's inside it. Well, they already know. The staffers know what's in it. They wrote it.
Even Joe's not reading his executive orders?
I don't know what Joe's reading.
What's that?
How long is Casper?
18 years.
Yeah, since who was the guy with the gavel that took over from Ross? I can't even remember. Yeah, it was.
I think Connie Mack, I think, was before her.
No, he was senator. It was the I'll think of his name in a minute. He was when Rostenkowski went to jail. He was head of the Senate Ways and Means. No, House Ways and Means. It was. It's been that long. I'll have to think of his name.
I'm surprised you got that far with the Ways and Means Committee.
Yeah. So it was very. It's House of Ways and Means is about what it is today, what it was 20 years ago. That was like probably the most powerful House committee, and it was the congressman here that had picked up the seat. That was under Bill Clinton when he was president.
I thought that was Connie Mack, but that could be completely wrong. I thought Connie Mack was the last Republican to sit in 14. What I thought it was.
The district's been redrawn. Yeah.
Yeah, well, it's very difficult to get rid of the incumbent. But like I said, with this year, the way that it's split, at 33% down the line, if you can fire up the independents to go out and vote, you might be able to push her out. I mean, it's going to be very interesting to see who the Republicans nominate to run this one. I've met them all; they're all very nice, but I think policy-wise, they're all incredibly weak.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that they're clinging on to the same policies that she has because they think that that's what will get them elected. But it just seems like the GOP falls for the same trap every single time.
Like
Whereas,
Charlie
why
Brown.
would you bother getting rid of her if they're going to run on the same thing that she's got?
She's going to hold the football this time.
Who would? And I said, just cut me off. Assuming or when you get elected, would you consider caucusing with any of the major political parties? Or are you going to be completely like a guy back in the corner?
So I don't have a problem reaching across the aisle at all. My whole thing is I'm willing to work with anybody. I'm just not willing to trade out a good bill for the constituents for a 400 page bill that allows $400,000 to an organization that buys clothes for transgenders to hide what their previous gender was. Not that I have any problem with that. I just think that's a reckless amount of money to be spending.
Yeah.
So I'm not willing to trade out those bills. I'm willing to sit down and the way that I say it is, if you've got 10 policies and I only like 3 of them, then let's just focus on the 3 policies that we get along with. Get those done because it's going to benefit everybody, and then circle back to what's not working. But it seems that right now the current level of politics is we're going to focus on the 7 we can't stand on each other, so we sit here arguing back and forth. And the one thing that I learned from George Santos was when you get elected, they push you not to fix anything. You're because then there's nothing to campaign on, there's nothing to fundraise on. So then you sit there and you think about it, you go, wow, that's literally what's been going on. It's not that they can't do it, they don't want to do it, they're not going to do it. So I have no problems reaching across the aisle. I have no problems working, within a caucus, but I'm not going to bend the knee. If we can work together to get something done, let's get it done. But one of the major reasons that I decided to run with the Libertarian Party is it's very difficult when you're running with the Republicans and the Democrats, regardless of whether you agree with some of those policies, not to get suckered in with the money and the pushing of, Hakeem Jeffries does a very good job of keeping them in line the way Nancy Pelosi did. And you don't see it as much on the Republican side because they can't seem to get along on anything. But I'm not going to be a pawn in politic games. I'm running to say no as much as possible to the politicians. So while I'll be sure I'll caucus with you and we can push legislation, I'm not playing the political games. I've been asked before, how much of the party could change your mind in passing, a law or voting for a particular bill, and it's none. The Libertarian Party can't do it. Republican Party can't do it. The Green Party, Reform Party, none of them are going to be able to make me change my mind on a bill. It's going to end up being what the constituents end up saying, because that's what we're there for. I literally, when I say we the people are on the ballot for 2024, I literally believe that.
And so how do you gauge what your constituents want? Like, you've got 33, 33, 33. Which ones are you listening to?
Well, at the particular point, I guess you're gonna, we're a federal constitutional republic.
Mm-hmm.
So, I represent the voices of the people.
Mm-hmm.
So we have an open office. So if there's a bill coming up and, we've got phone calls coming in, I want it, I don't want it, I want, which at the end of that all, whoever's got the most, that's the voice.
Mm-hmm.
Then your representative goes out and says, my people said no. That's how it was designed to be. That's how it's supposed to be.
Mm-hmm.
That's not how it's been. So, it's like when the issue with George Santos, that should have been up to the district that he came out of.
Mm-hmm.
Not the people in Congress. They voted him in. They should have been the ones to send the letters out and said, we don't want him anymore.
Right.
But Congress took it upon themselves to 86 them. And, they didn't do it to Menendez. They didn't do it, at least the Senate didn't.
Mm-hmm.
And, they didn't do it to, Cori Bush with the charges happening on her. They didn't do it to Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, but the Republicans fell for it and did it to their own person. But I would say that, as far as that goes, with the phone calls and emails start coming in of what the district, the voices are coming in, what they support. If more of it are for it than against it, then my vote's going to be for it.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't matter what my personal opinion is. It's not why it's there.
Right.
It's there. We're there to be the voice of the people, not the voice of your party or not the voice of your own conscience.
Yeah. So, what has your experience been running with the Libertarian Party, like from the party side? I know you've got the Mises Caucus, and then kind of Chase Oliver camp, and there's all of the insider little squabbles that still happen, even in this, pro-liberty party.
I don't know anything about the squabbles. I've heard of them.
Okay.
I'm not a part of them.
Okay.
The way that I see it is I'm not, and I've told this to the members of the party. The issues that you guys are having within the party are not my problem. I'm not running to be Libertarian of the Year. I'm running for Congress.
Mm-hmm.
I will concede that title to anybody who wants it. I think Chase Oliver runs on good policies. I think he's got to get louder about, with his voice. He's right now running against the most pulverizing man in politics right now, Donald Trump.
Right.
He's very loud. He took the message that the Libertarian Party had been trying to run on for 53 years and put it in a way that, Middle America understands now.
Right.
Now, I mean, Middle America doesn't seem like they've got, like, at least on the MAGA side, I think that they misunderstood a lot of what Trump was saying. But as far as the party itself goes, the issues and the squabbles they have are the same that every other party has. It's just exasperated with the Libertarian Party because, they get themselves thrown out of their own conventions.
Right.
So I don't pay attention to what's happening on the innards of the party. I don't pay attention to what's happening with it on social media.
Mm-hmm.
As far as their the way that they run their elections for president, Chase Oliver beat none of the above, and so he is their nominee.
Mm-hmm.
And I wish him well, and Mike Tremont, I wish him well. But what is happening with them has nothing to do with my district.
Okay. So do they support you at all in any way?
I've never had a conversation with either one of them.
Or I mean, like the party, because Angela McArdle is probably, I think, the head.
Angela McArdle is the head of. I've had conversations with Angela McArdle.
Mm-hmm.
She does support my race out here. Her and I are fairly similar as far as attitude goes with certain things.
Hmm.
I did not have a problem with her inviting Trump or RFK to the convention. I would not have it. I don't have any issues with them working on the fundraising side of the RFK party, because if that brings money back to the party and it helps your candidates financially
Mm-hmm.
be able to get their message out, then why not?
Mm-hmm.
It's not hurting anything. It's not breaking a message. It's certainly not going to hurt Chase Oliver. So because that's money that he can utilize to get his message out as well.
Right.
So I mean, they're getting a 10% kickback. If they raise $52 million, that's $5 million. Chase Oliver right now has $193,000 in the bank. You're not competing against the $300 and $400 million that Trump has, or the $52 million that RFK has.
No.
So I think that was a smart move, and I think that the people running around saying that this is the party of principle need to understand that in politics, principles don't get the message out, and you're not violating a principle by working with another party's fundraising group and getting money back. I think if you're going to get your message out, it's going to take money, especially with the way that they've changed the political makeup here.
Mm-hmm. And so, campaign finance laws and all of that. You got Act Blue is constantly like, someone's like, I never donated to that. I don't have the money for that.
Yeah, they call them the Smurfs.
Yeah, you've got them. I don't know. Win Red, I think, is the other one.
Yep, that's the Republicans. Yep.
I have no idea what comes out of there. It never makes it across my timeline. It just seems like the Republicans just love losing. I don't know what's going on.
I think what the Republicans have liked since 2016 is being able to get in front of a camera saying, well, if you would have elected us, that would have never happened.
Yeah.
The campaign finance law it's complicated to a sense, with when it comes down to PACs, because you and everybody else in here can donate up to $3,300, and that's your max for a campaign. The same thing goes for a business, but a PAC can donate an unlimited amount of money, and you can donate an unlimited amount of money to that PAC. So all the power belongs to the PAC. So you have AIPAC, the PAC from Israel, which supports Kathy Castor. You have multiple large PACs that are able to sway and control whose voice gets out. Mm-hmm. So I would say that PACs have to be done as far as elections go, because our elections shouldn't be controlled by who gets given the most money. It should be by the one that the voters get to actually listen to. So there needs to be an entire reform in the way that campaign finance laws works. It should not operate like a sports marketing theme. It should be, it shouldn't be, the most marketable is the one that gets in. It should literally be the one that represents the district, the one that understands policy. Mm-hmm. But the way that the money thing goes, those people aren't being heard.
Right. And there's alternative channels now. It seems like legacy media is dying. I mean, if you add up the primetime slots of CNN, Fox, and ABC and MSNBC, you're probably looking at 750,000 people across the entire legacy media. Like, that's a bad Joe Rogan episode worth of listeners.
Well, you've got podcasting is getting huge. Mm-hmm. The ratings are getting huge, but you also have outlets like the Spaces on X. Mm-hmm. Now they're good. It doesn't really help if it's not centralized to your district as far as where your message gets.
Right.
But there's a lot of good podcasters here in Florida. You've got Savage Underground he's out of Orlando. Mm-hmm. So you've got really good podcasters, and I think that's going to end up, and that's where a lot of people are more getting their news from nowadays. They're not really paying attention to CNN or Fox News, because they're starting to understand how biased it is.
It really hurts. Just I can feel it. Like,
you don't even want to watch it. Once they start talking, you're just like, oh, I'm done.
Yeah. Oh, we need to stop this, do that. Brought to you by Pfizer. And I'm like, I'm gonna lose my mind. Yeah. What's up, Ron?
Take these questions for everybody. Trying to help you here with brainstorming. JFK tried to get rid of APAC, and there's a lot of theories about who took them out. But the fact remains, you want to get rid of central banking. You want to make APAC register as a foreign lobby, which they still have not to this day. Okay, and there was one other item in regards to Israel.
Thomas Massey? Is it Thomas Massey?
Oh, his wife?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Could be a few other issues, and then he was taken out a few months later. And again, there's a lot of theories, but every country on planet Earth that asks the United States for money has to register and follow the rules.
Mhm.
except for APAC. It's been going on for decades.
Yep.
So, again, I'm asking you this, because you're probably asked it again. How does one man get rid of APAC or the PACs? How do you get rid of the PACs?
Well, if you say that they have to register as a foreign entity, then you literally register them as a foreign entity. You make them abide by it. You know, at some point, somebody's going to have to grow a pair and do their job.
Right, and you would have to get the rest of the senators on board
Well,
that are being funded by APAC to agree.
well, I mean, at that point, that would come down to the voters. You know, if the voters don't, you know, if you've got candidates saying that they're going to force APAC to register as a foreign entity or a foreign lobby, you know, the voters got to come out and vote for those people.
Yeah, but somebody's got to have the balls to write the bill to begin with.
Or the lack of family. Or the lack of family.
And hopefully not have a car accident.
I ride a motorcycle, so
Okay.
I'm good.
And then you also mentioned, I'm not beating you up, I'm trying to help you out here.
Right.
Okay. So I know a thing or two about central banking and inflation. How are we going to control costs? How are you going to control costs? That's a good thing.
Well, driving down the cost of living. Well, to drive down the cost of living?
No, how's that? How would you do that?
Well, you got to start by getting more product.
More products.
We have to get more product. What spurred inflation was when the Biden administration dumped that $3.2 trillion into the economy when it didn't need it. So now you had an influx of money with not enough product. So, I mean, it starts with getting us more product. I think it starts with getting rid of the regulations.
Supply versus demand.
Correct. So, I mean, you start at that point. You know, it's not going to happen overnight. It's not going to get fixed overnight, but it's certainly, you'll start to see more of a change. And I said, especially when you start getting rid of the regulations and opening up the market. I'd ideally, running as a libertarian, I'd love to see a free market. Just open the whole thing wide open. But these things take time to be implemented and get done.
No, right. Yeah, and they do. And again, I'm with you. I'm with you. But you also know, just like APAC, there are
and other people that are going to fight it. Yeah.
Interests,
yeah.
Control of whatever, corn, avocados, you name it.
Sugar.
Yeah. Well, that's why I keep saying, I'm not promising that this stuff can get done. I'm simply telling that this is what I stand for and this is what I'm going to push for, because I know I'm going to be fought back tooth and nail. I know that this is going to destroy some politician piggy banks. I have no problem standing up and saying APAC needs to register as a foreign lobbyist. I'm not concerned about it. I'm not afraid to say it. I'm not afraid to challenge the different industries that are being held up and that are controlling a lot of our deals. I'm not afraid to say, did Israel have the right to defend itself? Absolutely. But have we gone above and beyond what's supposed to be happening? No, absolutely not. And I've come out publicly and said that we have a free trade agreement with them. We've had it since 1973, which we trade weapons, which we trade different technologies. That, as far as I'm concerned, that's more than enough. Israel does not need our help to control the Middle East. They have the strongest air force over there. They could end that over there. And since they became a sovereign nation, they've been in 16 wars, 2 which they started. The rest were in defense. That the average American person gets paid for. Right. Okay. So we have a free trade agreement with them, and I think that's about as far as we should go. And I would come out and say that if we can't find a way to get everybody at the table to stop it, then we may have to pull that off the table and say enough is enough. We can't be funding this either. Just a little side note: did you know that Nixon was asked point blank? We need Israel, it's strategic, blah blah blah. Nixon came on point blank. You can still find it and said we don't need Israel, but it's not a strategic point. Okay, why do we keep giving them all this money?
How long was he in office after that statement?
Well, they would say strategic wise, on paper, they would be the only ally that we have in the Middle East. As far as, and that's simply because of the free trade agreement that we have. There is nothing strategic about it. I do believe they were talking about a bridge being built over there between there and Russia.
Yeah, a pipeline.
Yeah, something for that was supposed to be because the Suez Canal or the Suez Canal you can only get one ship at a time. So they were looking at building a some sort of a bridge.
Oh, yeah. Yep. And it has to go through Palestine.
Right.
Is what I think is.
There's also
a whole new canal.
Yeah. There's also a oil reserve in Palestine. I don't remember the amount of oil that's estimated to be there, but it's been untouched for forever. So I'm sure there's a few reasons why these things are taking place. Like I said, I believe they had the right to defend themselves, but I believe that at some point, A, we don't have to pay for it, and B, I don't believe there's too much of Hamas left over there. So I don't think the bombing needs to continue. I think at this point you can put your ground game in and you can start finishing the job. It does not need to become a parking lot over there.
No, and without even getting into all that, the right, the wrong of what's going on, bottom line is the American people are being saddled with it.
Well, that and the issue in Ukraine. We're also dealing with again we just sent another 150 billion or something like that, or 15 billion to Ukraine again. When does that stop? They're now 1 inch closer to getting the land back that they lost with the amount of funds that we've given them and the other nations have given them. They're not 1 inch closer to getting their land back. Well, it is, and I know a lot of people are going to come out, and the Republicans disagreed with me when we had our first debate. I said that Russia's playing the long game with this. Russia can wipe them out over a weekend if they wanted to. But what is the biggest thing that drives war? Right, it's fuel and energy. Right. So Russia's economy is worth $1.97 trillion. Ukraine's is worth 1.9 billion. What is the biggest factors for Russia's economy? It's energy and fuel. So if war is driving up their economy, I'd play the long game too. I'd take a few steps forward, 3 steps back, and wait it out. I mean, it's the amount of drafting that Ukraine's had to do. They're going to genocide their own people before all is said and done, anyways.
No, I know it's terrible, but the same thing. I don't mean any disrespect to all the young men dying at all, but why we don't need to pay for it.
We don't, and we could have stopped it before it got started.
It would have been over.
I have a big argument about that. So we could have stopped it before it started. Yeah.
We even when it got started, we know that China's funding it. We know that India is helping fund it. You could have sanctioned all 3 of those economies, and if you can't afford war, you don't do it anymore.
Have you heard about? Was there a deal on the table to turn Ukraine into like the Switzerland of the East?
I don't know the specifics to the deals that I do know that there were 2 peace deals that were put out. That
like
the U.S. came out and said the U.S. both from the U.S. said no to.
Don't turn it into NATO. Don't weaponize it. It'll be like a Switzerland of the East.
So something of that nature.
Wasn't that the Minsk Accords? Was that what that is? So we promised we wouldn't do NATO. Yeah.
That was Obama era, or maybe it was before the Obama era. Some of that nature. We've said that if you get rid of your nukes, we'll back you in a war.
Mm-hmm.
But that was what they said was a mandate or something of that nature. So we weren't legally bound by it. And any president after the fact could have just said, I really don't care.
Mm-hmm.
So we weren't bound to honor those agreements or those mandates that, I think early on, we knew that this was going to happen once we started watching it on the border. If we were going to do something about it, we should have done something about it then. Funding it wasn't going to stop anything. I mean, I think it was 3 or 4 days ago, reports came out that NATO bombed something in Russia. So, I mean,
good.
There wasn't going to be anything that was going to, once it began, stopping it outside. I'm not the biggest fan of Donald Trump, but I believe that a lot of the sanctions he put in place in Iran and China and Russia kept them at bay, because if you can't afford it, you don't go to war.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's what should have been done from the gate. We did not sanction anything worth a damn to hurt Russia early on. You know, their economy thrives on energy and fuel, and right now most of Europe is utilizing their energy and their fuel. So I mean, they're having a field day. So you know, it's a bad business investment on our part, and you know, I don't see, if there's the wars are as extreme as they are, how there's so many nightclubs operating in Ukraine, and they're, you know, how great that they're doing. But none of these wars should be our problem. None of these proxy wars should be American citizens' problem. You know, the Constitution, nowhere in the Constitution does it say that our taxes are supposed to be collected for this, you know, the wealth and safety of another nation.
Mm-hmm.
So
there's obviously a lot of large issues. This is a big ship. So let's say, you know, we exercise all the demons, all new people, all new blood gets in, all people who want to uphold the Constitution and bring the country back to its foundations of, you know, life, liberty, and pursue happiness. How deep is that dip? And like, how long do you think it takes for us to recover if we were to remove the tumor and finally get moving again?
I would say you're probably looking at it. Shoot. I would probably say 15 years. You're probably looking at about 15 years before you start to see the benefits of it. I mean, I think if you start specifically honoring the 10th Amendment and getting the majority of it back to the states, you know, your sovereign states, getting them their power, the states will see a faster recovery than you will on a federal level. And then if you open up the free markets, I firmly believe that your job markets will skyrocket. You get yourself to energy independence, and we actually back our currency on something more than just a high five. Within 10 to 15 years, I think you could see a real change in how things here are here in America.
Would you advocate Fauci being charged with a million counts of murder as well as perjury?
Yes.
And how would you feel about us tarring and feathering him and dragging?
Only if I get to drive the vehicle.
All right.
Not to mention pocketing the money indirectly, and then of course the cover up right when I was March 20th, 2020, March 17th, 2020, when the news broke and everything.
Well, I'd like to know how many people, you know, in Congress covered it up for him. You know, I mean, I would say that there's you can't have something of that magnitude that only Fauci knows about. You know, and you know, so at this point, he's absolutely the fall guy. You know, he's the fall guy for somebody else. And at this point, you can see that he's absolutely being protected. You know, if it had been you, me, or anybody else, we'd probably already be looking at 120 years in prison.
Yeah.
You know, and then some. You know, that they probably bring us back out after 8 years and charge us again with something else. So, you know, did I see that they were looking to appoint him to something else most recently?
He's still on the federal payroll,
right,
or something. He's still active. I heard that the other day. Yeah. Like he's even making a comeback.
Right. Yeah. He's getting. You know, he's the great savior again.
Yeah.
No. A million counts of murder. I would absolutely, you know, support that. You know, I might sign it twice. You know, if you can vote twice, I could sign a bill twice.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I think that's as good a place as any to end it on. You know, we're going to drag Fauci and tarred and feathered through the streets on the back of his motorcycle.
It's a bright orange Harley. You can't miss it either.
There we go.
He will be seen.
Does anybody have any other questions they've been holding on to?
How can we support her?
Word of mouth is really what I'm pushing for. You know, if you can get me out in front of people that you know. I know the majority of the candidates are going to sit there and say, well, here's my website, donate. And money's good, but, you know, nothing beats seeing somebody face to face and shaking a hand. So I would say, you know, word of mouth, you know, phone calls, you know, stuff that gets me in front of people, because that's really the way that people are going to make the decision to vote. They're not going to vote it because I'm on a TV ad or I'm on a billboard. It's going to be because they get to see me, they get to hear me speak, and they get to put a name to the face and shake a hand. I really don't think that these TV ads really make a difference anymore. I don't think many people are really watching TV anymore anyways. I think the era of needing to have $3 million to run a campaign, which is what I was quoted, was $3 million to run against Kathy Castor, by an organization that helps run campaigns.
Good business.
It must be. Well, when I originally started this, I was going to go and do the signatures. So I reached out to a company, Christina Tobin. She's doing the signatures for RFK, to help me get signatures out here. We only need 5,087 signatures. I got an invoice for $160,000. I was like, I'll just pay the 11,000. It's all good. We'll just pay the 11,000 to Florida. Why would I?
Yeah.
And people are like, well, because it's more personal if you get the signatures. I said, how is it personal? I'm paying you to do it.
Right.
So, I'll just pay the 11,000 and we'll figure it out. But then I realized nobody did the signatures in District 14. Now, none of the Republicans, nobody went and got the signatures. Everybody paid the ballot access.
Yeah, it's a lot cheaper, it sounds like.
Well, I mean, you can go and do the signatures yourself, but what ends up happening with the signatures is they get challenged. What happened, like it happened in New Jersey and New York a lot, the court date gets set after the certification date. So it doesn't matter if it's in court or not. If it's not certified by the certification date, you're out. So you had a lot of people up north specifically that their signatures got challenged. They go into court, it sits there. They go to court, they win. Their signatures are good, but hey, hold on to until next year or your next election because you didn't get certified by that time.
That's crazy.
So nothing's faster to be certified than cold hard cash. And
the Democrats get a lot from cemeteries. You can try them. Go to a cemetery.
you know what? They wouldn't answer. I went knocking on the gate. And they seem pretty.
It's returned. After the election, it's returned.
But we also have brochures and information here for people to learn more about you and find your website. You do have a website, and you do take Bitcoin donations.
We do, yep.
So word of mouth obviously is great, but there are, back over here, grab some of these before you head out. Definitely stay and ask more questions.
We had placed an order for a new set of postcard-style flyers. And I don't know what happened, but they came in business card sized.
Oh.
So I may be having to give out free magnifying glasses with some of them.
Luckily
or inflation is just that bad. Yeah. Even printing is a problem.
Shrinkflation. Postcards are now business cards. Well, thank you, Nate. Appreciate it. Thank you for the questions, everybody. Thanks for your attention. And